And we are, hold on, it's setting up my Facebook Live. And we are live. I believe we are. Let me just double check. Yes, we are. Hey, everyone. So welcome to this episode. I think you guys, I have entitled this whole thing called Reset. So I'm going to say, so our first episode of Reset, which is a show is hosted by, inspired by you. And today we are going to be talking about homeschooling. Did someone say homeschool? I believe that this topic is very relevant to today. Let me just go ahead and share, tag, and I invite you to share, tag, and like as well. And then we'll get started. So just give me 1 second. Just want to share it on my page and on my news feed. You guys could do the same. All right, so I am back. That is done. So again, my name is Coach Santrisa. I am a trauma recovery coach, as well as a small business mentor. And we came up with this platform to actually a lot of the topics that have been discussed deal with some aspect to where a person would find to be traumatic in their life. So we come together, I bring on some experts, and we just have a nice chit chat, not necessarily formal, but a nice informal chit chat where you could come in, you can ask questions of the experts. But again, disclaimer, we do give out information, but I do suggest that you do your own research. After we finish, you can feel free to ask questions. There will be a question and answer segment. Feel free to comment. Feel free again to share. Feel free to send hearts, and we will get started. I want to welcome my guests, Lydia, Nola, and Dana on for today. And welcome you and thank you for coming. Lydia, she has years experience in education. Dana, she specializes in change management. And we have Nola on, who has been homeschooling for a long time. So I wanted to bring these guys together because I feel that we will be able to assist. And for me, I don't homeschool. I have a lot of questions, but this is totally informative for myself as well. So we are going to start. Again, I invite you to like, share, comment, and send hearts. All right. So to get started, I'm going to ask for each one of you guys to introduce yourself briefly, and then we'll start on the conversation. I don't know. Let's see. Let's have Dana start.
Hi, everybody. My name is Dana McGill, and I have 15 years of change management and resiliency experience.
Okay. And let's have Nola comment.
Hi, peace and greetings, everyone. My name is Sister Nola. And yes, I have been homeschooling for quite some time. I still am currently homeschooling my 2 younger children. And I'm just really excited to be on the show today. Looking forward to sharing as well as learning.
Welcome. And Lydia, if you can introduce yourself.
Hi, good evening, audience. My name is Lydia Peart. I'm an educator, early childhood educator, but I've also served on a policy board with our county that dealt with from 0 to 8, and their mantra was 0 to 8, making it great. And so I do have some working knowledge. I'm going to go back like about 25 years of dealing with school-age children.
All right. So again, welcome you guys. So we are going to start. And what was so important about this conversation for me is because we're in COVID, and we know at the beginning of this year, we were all hit with you now have to homeschool your kids, right? You now have to And granted, some schools provided the information. You know, we all had to adjust to Zoom. We had to adjust to homeschooling. We had to adjust to making sure our kids get up, do the homework. We had to actually see our kids as raw as they probably normally are in school, if not a little bit worse. And I don't want to say it like that, but I mean, just because now we're dealing with trying to learn really fast how to balance out school, how to balance out home, how to balance out, you know, chores, those things that kind of kept us out of the home. Now we're all in home. And for me, I had to work at home and my son was in school and trying to get his schooling set up. So it was a lot. And so as we're transitioning back and we're seeing what's going into the schools, I'm like, well, in my mind, which I think will be in many parents' minds, is should I homeschool? It seems like I'm doing it anyway. And I know we had an earlier conversation earlier this week, and we were talking about it. So what I want to start off addressing is to get a clearer definition in regards to remote learning. So Lydia, if you could kind of start, explaining about defining what remote learning is and kind of what that looks like.
Okay, sure. So this is an excellent topic. It's what's happening. As you stated already, that many of us, because of in light of the pandemic, we had to transition to virtual learning. And there wasn't a rule book on just how to do it. Each state, each county, each district was using pulling from different templates and coming together as much as they could, a comprehensive packet or a roadmap in terms of how to engage the children and not let them lose the momentum that they were having in the school. So initially it was only going to be a temporary thing and we would transition them. But as the numbers grew, then it required that they go longer. So now we're on what they will call a summer break. However, school is about to start. For some states, they're going to be starting next month. And for us, we're preparing for the fall. So the question on the table, or what's out here now, is we're going to be doing school at home, or another word that's out there, I should say buzzword, is hybrid learning, right? And then we have homeschooling. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to start off by saying all three of those are different. So remote learning is that you are remotely, not necessarily at home, because you had some interesting stories of people at the park, different places. You are not in the classroom setting if you're remote, but you have internet access, technology. You're able to remotely go on, whether it's like you have a prescribed work curriculum, or mm-hmm. you have a schedule where you would come into a Zoom meeting, or another, we were using a different one called WebEx. So, they have several that they're using, so they're able to access it, get their work, and then they are working independently. So that's the remote. The mm-hmm. hybrid is a blended session of in-person instruction as well as virtual at home. And so the hybrid is a little bit more structured, I would say, because but it's supposed to be, in theory, accustomed to the needs of the family. Mm-hmm. You not necessarily have to be locked into a traditional school setting or time, because some children have different wake up times, and you can actually go as late as that family. You can kind of work around that family's work schedule, mm-hmm. and still get the content in. So the hybrid, and then it's also the children will be coming, doing different schedules. Mm-hmm. Some out there are like 2 days in person and 2 at home virtual, or the other way. Then they have 1 week on, 1 week off. So there's different formulas and different templates that they're throwing out, and it's really up to the district that your school district is in. And it's also up to the parent and what the parent can really agree to. And then you have homeschooling, which is a whole nother great opportunity for parents to connect with their children, really think out the box, develop what I like. And I'm just really I'm not an expert with homeschooling. I'm learning about it and I'm getting excited. But what I like about what I'm hearing is that, yes, I'm a curriculum person. I like the structure, but I love creativity. And so there are many different homeschooling curriculums and lessons and things of that sort, but a family can accustom to the way that their child learns.
So I mean, okay, so do you have any experience? I know that you've been an educator. So do you have experience with, okay, say if I decided to homeschool this year, say if I wanted to do it for 1 year, right? Do you have any experience with children as they have transitioned or try to transition them back into like a regular classroom setting, right? Because I know that it's totally different. You know, like I'm around my family all the time, and then it's kind of like now, you know, I'm back in school, I'm around other children. So, you know, do you see a difference?
It's absolutely a difference. And I'm going to speak to pre-COVID. So a child coming from homeschooling back into COVID would be totally, you know, an adjustment. But either way, it's an adjustment because within the confines of a traditional classroom setting, you have that. Was I knocked off? Sorry about that. In the confines of a traditional classroom setting, or you would have your lesson plans, same way you would have with homeschooling, right? You have a daily schedule of what you're going to do. However, that teacher or that educator has to follow the script of the curriculum.
Okay.
Right? They have to, and so the structure is there, the time frames are there, the content, right? They really do have, and with the curriculum that we currently use, it pretty much tells you exactly what to do at what time. And so a student coming in, you ask the question, did I have experience? Absolutely.
Okay.
So I've had in the last, I was just sharing with someone, I've had it over the years sparingly, it'd be 1 or 2, but the last school year, not before COVID, I'm going to go the last school year. I had 10 children that came into my program that had been homeschooled. So I had to split them up, you know, and going. And parents, we talk with them. I do this orientation, and we were just trying to touch points and find out, you know, a little bit about their experience. And as far as content was concerned, they were well prepared.
Okay.
They were well prepared. They transitioned well with the content. As a matter of fact, some excelled. The area of concern was socialization.
Okay.
Socialization, conflict resolution, choice. We have choice time, but it's in a time frame. It's not, you can't just because you want to be over here, I have to keep it flowing. And so we had some challenges.
Okay.
We had some challenges with just them getting acclimated with the traditional classroom setting.
Okay. So that brings me to you, Nola, right? Because I know that you've been homeschooling for a while. And so originally your children were in public school, right?
They were in a preschool originally. Before that, they were being educated at home.
Okay. So in regards to your transitioning to homeschooling, right? Um, can you tell me about that experience? Like what, what's the decision, like what kind of triggered that? And, like just tell me about that process, because I'm pretty sure like a lot of people, like for me, I'm like, I want to homeschool because I feel like I could teach so much, but then I'm like, do I have the time, right? Do I have the time to invest? What will I necessarily teach? So it's like all these questions, because I don't believe that I'll be pulling the curriculum or going to the school and saying, hey, can you give me this, book? And I don't want to, I guess look it up on Amazon and say, well, what's the curriculum, for this age group? You know how those books, I remember my mom used to buy me those books that they sell in the store. You could probably find them like in a dollar store, right? So to say pre-K or like first grade math, second grade math. And like you would buy the book because that's what it's saying the level your child is on, or she would buy me like a grade ahead of time. So how do you make that decision, to say, okay, or what was your process, I should say, in regards to your transition?
Well, I began teaching them, well before they were 3 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I, was teaching them their letters, and, they were able to read at a very early age. And, that's where, my focus was. So because of my life circumstances, I had to put them into a preschool, some of them, in just starting out. And then, that was an adjustment there, because now I'm on someone else's schedule and they have someone else's curriculum. What I wanted for them was for them to have a spiritually centered education. I wanted it to be God-centered. And I chose a private pre to 8th grade school for that purpose. So coming out of that and going back into where it was just strictly homeschooling, that was, something that I desired, for them to do,
Mm-hmm.
I was, as a member of the Nation of Islam, I was inspired to take control of the education for my children. And so based on that, that's something that I chose and I desired, that I wanted for them. And then I based my curriculum off of what I wanted them to learn, spiritually as well as academically.
Okay. So how did you structure your day? Like, so, okay, my kids are home, right? I know I have to homeschool them, but I have other life duties that I need to do. Did you set aside time during the day and say, okay, everybody get up, blow the whistle? On TV, you see, right? Like some kids are home and doing school and you see like they blowing the whistle, they knocking on the doors and like get up, and they have like this designated area to learn in. And for some people that's not practical because they might have their rooms, they may share it with their siblings, it's age differences. So like, how did you structure your day to accommodate your children, so that everybody was did they all learn together at the same time? Was it, I teach them in the morning, teach them in the afternoon?
Yeah, so the advantage of starting out while they're very young is that you are more able to control, how their day goes with little to no protest from the children. You get up, you get their breakfast together. I sat them all at the table, and I had a space set aside where it was strictly for learning after breakfast. Then we had our do nows, and those were educational activities that were fun, just to, get them going, let them wake up a little bit. And then we also had time where we had class outside of the home, like at the library, at the park. The beauty about homeschooling is that, you can do it anywhere
Mhm.
and at any time. And, being when you're trying to have a spiritually based curriculum, you can find education in anything that's around you. There's so many teaching moments, as opposed to something that, where you have like a brick and mortar school, like the public school system, where it's, 7 to 3 or 8 to 2.
So what about the curriculum? Like in regards to the curriculum, where did you find the curriculum at? Did you have to worry about any like specific standardized testings that, some schools may say, okay, well, they need to pass this test in order to, move forward, or, whether it's the SATs, or when I was in school, we had the CTBS test. I don't even think they have that test anymore. Was it CTBS? I think that's what it was. But we used to have like those standardized testings. So like, do they test? Do you still test them? Or, is it like, they don't have to test? Your phone, you muted it. Let me unmute you. I think I can unmute you. 1 second.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes.
Oh, okay. So with homeschooling, you don't necessarily follow what the public school is doing. There's no mandated testing in most states, but you would have to check with your own state to find out what their regulations are as far as standardized testing and mandated testing. I did most of my homeschooling in New Jersey, and there's no mandated testing for homeschoolers. Now, if that's something that you choose to do, then, by all means. As far as the SATs, you can, that's something that you can opt to do as well. If they want to go to a college and the college requires SAT scores, that's something that, that's your option to go ahead and get them tested with the SATs or the ACTs. Okay. But in homeschooling, that's not something that's mandated in most states.
Okay. So you could pretty much just teach them. So how do you determine that they're ready to move forward? Like, how do you determine that they're ready to move forward to the next grade, or that you've taught them enough to say, okay, they've qualified to progress to the next grade? So if I'm teaching my son, and I'm saying, okay, he's in the 9th grade, how do I know that he's, made that milestone so that he can advance?
So each state and each district has what their standards are. Okay. For that grade, for that grade level. Okay. And so if you want to follow your state's or your district's standards, then that's available to you. You just have to go and search out what yours is.
Okay. So Lydia, I know that we were talking, and I know that you said you had some children who came from homeschooling back into the school system, right? Mm-hmm. Are there things that you will look for? I know that, you're in New Jersey as well. So, but as a director in working with early childcare, are there things that you look for? And if you don't see them, do they get set back? Or do you work and come up with a program to kind of move them forward?
So we don't, in the early childhood, it's not, I would say, a standardized testing. It is an assessment though. The curriculum, even when they're infant toddlers, even when they're like 18 months, even before that, we currently in New Jersey, we are using the curriculum, creative curriculum, and the children learn through play. And so in the infant toddler, I have an infant toddler program, and we use the curriculum, creative curriculum continual, which is we are getting them ready to be prepared to go into the preschool setting and learn about learning centers and development appropriate practices and different domains.
Okay.
And so we have what we call assessments. We have ITERs and ECHRs, and we also do EZR. So we also do assessments around their social emotional,
okay,
where they are and where they are on the development band. And so our teachers and instructors have to be certified in brain development, child brain development, and are very in tune with the developmental milestone chart where the children are, because they develop at different stages.
okay,
Doesn't mean they have or any spectrum. We have to be able to document where they are so that we can make modifications to that template of a curriculum. So, you have 15 children in the classroom, but they chronologically are a certain age, but developmentally they are at different stages. So that teacher instructor has to be able to modify that same lesson for the child that's average, the child that's above, and the child that's below. And so if they have any physical or any other disabilities, they have to also modify to do that as well. So it's constant observation and constant assessments. And then the children have progress reports. We're using teacher strategy. And so we have what they call different disciplines. If a child can bounce a ball, roll a ball, how are they with their literacy? How many words are they speaking? Those kind of things, that data is they're assessed. And so we get a progress report. I look at a lot of data in terms of to see where they are. And again, that doesn't mean that they're on any type of spectrum. It's just seeing where the children are. And so there are touch points where you will see if a child is not achieving certain things. And so then we have other support, interventional programs, different things that's going to support where there is a gap.
okay.
But those are the kinds of things that happen in the infant, toddler, preschool area. So we have to get them ready for kindergarten, which is a whole nother focus.
Okay. And I'll probably have to come back and talk about the topic just to see if we could get in regards to like older children and like the transition back into school, because
Right.
I know probably from that perspective, it may be a little bit different, but Nola, right? I got like about 2 more questions for you, right? It's about 2.
Okay.
So from a parent standpoint, right? I want to know, and I know from previous conversation we were talking about your curriculum. So I just want you to explain how, I know you said you picked it out from different places. Just explain how you chose your curriculum and, how you could kind of go about that. And then I'll come up back with the next question after that, after you, after you explain that.
Okay. All right. So my curriculum came from a multiple of places.
Okay.
I use Time for Learning. That's an online curriculum, and they have everything from pre-K to 12th grade. And I used it as a supplement. They have Algebra 1, Algebra 2, they have art, they have biology, history, they have a multitude of classes. on that. That was one that I've used throughout the entire time that I've been homeschooling. Also, there's, you know, there's just a wealth of curriculum and online. I mean, I get everything mostly online.
Okay.
You know, printing out worksheets. There's free online courses
I like that
that
word.
are available. There's a bunch of stuff. So that's where I get, you know, that's where I get it.
I think what parents need to really understand that there's a difference between homeschooling and actually taking a curriculum from a regular school setting and teaching that curriculum, because you're in total control, right? You have to pick, like, everything falls on you as the parent, right? When you're homeschooling. That's necessarily what you're saying, right? Like, you don't have anybody really to monitor you, to tell you that you picked the right thing, you didn't pick the right thing. It's just kind of like everything is totally reliant on you. That's what you're saying?
Every state has its own regulations. So in Florida now, every year, you have an annual evaluation.
Okay.
And that would either be by an assessment, a test, a standardized test, or have an actual licensed teacher to evaluate your student. And so, you know, so there are in different states different regulations for
Okay.
that. So yeah.
So that's what I was saying, everybody. Like, you have to, it's very important. Like, we give information, but it's very important to do your own research, because what I don't want is for us parents to go into it blindly, for us thinking that, you know, I've been teaching my child these lessons. They gave us dittos. We went on Zoom, but I have to teach them the hard parts of, you know, when they're struggling. Even though I do commend, there are teachers out there who've made themselves more available than anything during this time. So I want to say that, you know, that is greatly appreciated from that standpoint. But I'm sorry.
I wanted you to finish your thought, and I wanted to ask if I could say something in terms of the parents. So again, everything is still fluid, right? The guidelines and things are changing. I was in a big meeting today in terms of getting some more protocol for the fall. So what I really would like the parents, you hit the nail on the head. Parents are in control. There are surveys that are going out in my state. I can't speak, I can only speak for New Jersey, but the parents are being given the opportunity to complete these survey. I did go on the WebEx and say, I think there's too many questions, right? But that's just me. But the parents have a choice, and they can ask, I would like the parents to ask as many questions to those people who are making the decisions for their children, because the parents are absolutely in control. And for example, I just wanted to interject. Now, I champion the curriculum that we do. It's my job, right? I assess the teachers. I make sure that they are following the curriculum. So in order to do that, I have to know the curriculum. So at the beginning of the curriculum, when it came across me some years ago, I didn't like it, right? And I was very vocal about it, because I felt like it didn't give us any creativity. Yeah, but they beat me down, and now, you know, I got to go through it. But one of the things that stood out for me immediately when I was looking at the curriculum and going through the train the trainer was that, for example, my name is Lydia, right? We read left to right. If I was homeschooling and I was being taught how to spell my name, right? I would be one Lydia, right? And I would be one, because we read from left to right. In the creative curriculum, they don't teach left to right, right? It's in the box. If I wrote L over here and Y over here and D over here and I and A, I've mastered Lydia. But that's not reality to me, because you're not going to have a kid write their name all around like that. but that's the thinking around this curriculum. And so for me, homeschooling, that would have been such a, how do I do that? That doesn't make sense. Because literally when this kid gets into school age, the teacher's not going to let them write their name around like a box. They have to write left to right. And so those are just little things that stuck out to me as a parent. I'm not speaking as an educator, but parents have to ask questions. They don't just have to take what's been handed to them, right? They do have choices and they may choose. So some parents have been supplementing long before we've been faced with this pandemic. Parents have been having tutors, right? They've been doing Kumon, they've been doing hunting, different ones that are out there. And they've chose based on where their children is, because they're working with their homework and they're seeing where their children are. They have invested the time. I just want to say to the parents, this is a great optimal time to do your research, do your due diligence, learn about the different ways. Another thing, and I'm going to shut up. I don't want to hijack the, our show, but another thing is we don't do dittos. I heard you use that. Ditto is like blasphemy. All right. We don't use the word ditto. All right. But parents can do ditto.
Worksheet. I said worksheet.
Yeah. We don't do that. Right. And so we also, that line paper where you can have them line their name. Yeah, we don't do that either. We don't trace. But those are things, parents do that. They sell these in the store. You want to practice with your child, who's going to tell you no? You have the control to teach your child how to write, how to do that. We don't teach cursive writing. We don't do that anymore. This is where you as the parent can do that. So I just wanted to throw that out there because parents have control.
And I think that that's where a lot of the stress and the frustration, we're going to get to that with Dana, but I think that's where a lot of the stress and the frustration comes from, right? Because a lot of times we relate back and we relate back and we say, when I was in school, they taught me cursive. When I was in school, I learned how to add up and down, the letters, the numbers, and, I carried numbers over. And so now I'm presented with a whole different way to do something. We're getting the same answer, but you made it complicated for me. So I think as parents, we have to understand that what we're doing right now, if your child is enrolled into school, is not homeschooling, right? Is absolutely not homeschooling. And it's important that the things that you always could supplement, you always could take that time out, supplement, and teach your kids. I think that that component should always stay, whether you're homeschooling or not, is that you have to remember to continue to teach your children something, that's not being taught in school. I always say, in regards to my oldest son, they had a music program in school. I've exposed him to so many different types of music, different things, because, that's kind of how I came up, right? So it's kind of like the importance of, being at home and actually you broaden that horizon for them. Take them to a museum, take them to an aquarium, right? And teach them yourself. I understand, you have to understand homeschooling, like, again, not just the curriculum falls upon you, but everything. So Nola, right? I have this one key question. I asked you before, you was laughing, but I want to know, when you're home and your kids want to play sick because they don't want to study, right? Like, do you run into that? Your kids, they be like, listen, mom, not feeling well today. Like, or your kids, because, I think my children try to try it. Like, I got a stomach ache. And then like 30 minutes later, they're done. Do you come back to it? Do you check them? Like, how do you handle like the sick days, the you know what I mean? Like the emergencies, like what's like a standard day, but oops, something just happened, or, oh, my child is sick today. Like, how do you handle that? Because my mother would be like, suck it up, go to school, go to the nurse. Right? But you are the nurse.
That was, you're sick, you can't go to school, you're sick all day, even after school lets out. But the beauty about homeschooling is that it's okay if they're sick, they're home already. So, depending on how sick they are, you can have class at 7 p.m. if it's something that, you have scheduled and, okay, this has to get done today, you don't have to do, a 9 to 2 or 8 to 2, or, you can have some classes in the evening. You can have, say, okay, well, we're going to do math, at the library today or something like that. And they're actually sick less at home, in my experience, than when they go to school.
And it's not really just always being sick. It's just sometimes, how, like, have your children ever said, Mom, I just not today? It's just overwhelming, just not today. I just can't do it today. Like, do you run into that sometimes?
Absolutely. I mean, some days, you're just not feeling it, and it's okay. Because if you're doing, if you're learning every day and it's going smoothly, I mean, some days you just might, not be feeling it, and it's okay, but you still might have those things, that are teaching moments that still come up out of the day. Like you might not be feeling like having a formal instruction, but you might later, be in the kitchen helping to cook, and you're doing, measurements with sugar or flour or something like that. We used to have like word of the day, and everybody would, have to learn how to spell that word and know the definition of that word and use it in a sentence 5 times, out of the week. And so you can do that whether you're sick or not. And that's just one example of still, being able to still learn, even though you might, not feel like coming to the table and sitting down and doing an assignment, which is fine, but the whole thing about it is that you're making the educational experience enjoyable. So where it's not like, oh God, another day at school and blah, 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 you kind of, what gets, what gets them going, and what motivates them. And it might be something different with one child, that might be different from another child, but how to motivate them where they're looking forward to something that's going along with this assignment that we're doing, or this subject that we're, learning about.
Okay. And I appreciate that, especially having, I think, especially having 3 children and they're all 5 years apart. Of course, different personalities, you're dealing with different things. And, to come to you, Dana, I know you deal with change management, right? So I'm a parent and I'm already mad because COVID is here, right? And I got to work from home. I have to not only work from home, I have to now focus in to make sure that my son is learning. And, at one point in time, my boss, I had to explain to, my immediate supervisor, I'm like, listen, I got homeschooling, I got grow, like I'm home, like, so I can't do a standard as a parent. I can't do a standard, 8:30 to 5. I have to adjust my work schedule because I have to monitor my child. So as a parent, you get frustrated. You're like, I got so much to juggle, but I don't want them to miss out on the keen opportunities of education. So now I'm frustrated. And, how do you cope with that? How do you deal with coping? How do you, keep up and, that enthusiasm so that, I got to finish out the rest of the school year. I got about 5 more months, to the school year starts. So, oh, school's about to start again. And here we go again. I only had 1 month of rest. So it's kind of like, how as a parent, like, what can you tell me as a parent that I can do, not only for myself, but even for my child, like that we can do to get through this moment? Because I think that would be a determining factor. It'd kind of be like, I wanted to homeschool, but this COVID done made me say they got to go back to school, right? But I really wanted to homeschool. So what can you tell me as a parent? Like, what kind of coping tips could you give me?
Yeah, so Resilience. So resilience is that one quality and life skill that we need most to get us through difficult times. And so what is resilience? It's basically, the psychological strength to deal with setbacks, crisis, or any type of hardship, that we face in life. And so that's really a skill that you can develop and build, depending on where you are now. It's something that you can work toward to make sure that you stay resilient, especially in uncertain times like this. So there are some tips that I can provide if you're all right with that.
Yes.
Sure, everybody's like, "Ooh, what can I do?" So I'm going to offer 10 tips, and I'll make it quick. The first tip is, and I'll just use the COVID and having to, a lot of people nowadays are having to make a decision on, okay, at least in our county, which is in Tampa, Florida, Hillsborough, we're being told that we have a certain amount of time to try to, decide on, okay, are we going to send our kids back to school? Are we going to, do e-learning, or are we going to do virtual? And so regardless as to what your choices are and what county you live in, what state, a lot of parents are having to make decisions. And so one of the things that we know is that whatever decision you make, if you decide to send your child back to school, then there's a chance that if COVID gets worse, you'll be right back at home again, right? So then that's another change. And then schools may open and they might not offer virtual. So now you have to send your kids back to school. So it's a constant change that we're having to cope with. And so 10 ways to deal with resilience so that you can bounce back in light of all these changes are: one, you want to make connections and build your social support and network. Because, we all need a support system. And so what do I mean by that? Family, friends, neighbors, even though you might not be able to visit, keep those connections alive so that you can learn from each other. Friends that have children that are the same age as yours, or maybe older or younger, and just find out what they're doing to cope with this, and then be each other's ear and support when each other needs it. Another thing is find out what the county or the state, what type of support they have that might be free. Make sure you look into those things. And so really it's all about just the support network so that you're not in it alone. The second thing is to avoid the tendency to view the crisis as some unsurmountable challenge, right? So it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to work at home. I'm gonna have to homeschool. And it's like, just, take a moment, breathe, and realize that, and there's a quote from the late Wayne Dyer. He was a self-help, he wrote a self-help book and also is a motivational speaker. And I really love this quote: if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's all about how you view things. And so try to avoid just panicking and looking at things like you just can't do it, and really just focus on, the situation at hand and realize that you can do it. The third thing is to accept that change is natural, unavoidable, and it's just a part of life. So once you really understand that and accept that, then change is easier to deal with. And mind you that we need to also be instilling these on our children, because they're going to react the way we will when it comes to change. The fourth thing is just really moving toward your realistic goals. So as with anything you're trying to conquer, you want to set goals for yourself. And that can be in terms of the curriculum. If you decide to homeschool completely, like Nola did, I'm sure she had her set of goals and her plan. And so, you fail to plan, you got to plan to fail, right? So we heard that before. So really it's all about setting goals and making sure you stay on track. The fifth thing is about taking decisive action. And so this will also help you face challenges. So don't just think about what you might do. Don't just sit there. I know it's shocking sometimes when we hear about change, but you can't stay in that place of panic. You have to actually take action, because nobody's going to do it and wait for you. No one's going to wait for you to calm down to do anything. You just have to do it yourself and own it, own the change. The sixth thing is looking for opportunities that promote self-discovery. So I know for me with COVID, I actually sat back and thought about what was important in life, right? What really matters. Because it's like, okay, we can't go anywhere. We can't do anything. Well, the important things in life is spending time with your family, you know, like making sure that we have our health, we have something to eat, we have our strength, we woke up in our right mind. And so really just looking inside and learning more about how we feel about life, our spiritual being, and things like that. So just that's one tip. And then seventh is nurturing a positive point of view of yourself and your abilities. So again, an example of this is some people are identifying either new talents or they're tapping into their old ones because we're spending so much time around the house and with our children. And so one thing is with this whole school at home is that some kids may discover that they're really good at the computer, and that may spark up the interest to pursue, you know, certain things like, you know, learning how to program or code and things like that. So that kid may not have had that interest had they not been doing school from home and really spending a lot of time on the computer. And the eighth thing is keeping things in perspective and in context. So really that has to do with it is what it is and accepting that. And it's not the end of the world. It's just really where we are right now. It's not that this is the way it's always going to be. It's all about, you know, it is what it is right now. Some things we can control, other things we can't. So that's serenity prayer, right? So that's tip number 8. And then 9 is, I got some cheat sheet here just so I remember them all, is maintaining a hopeful outlook in life. It's all about positive attitude and just looking at the bright side and optimism versus pessimism. And then finally is taking care of ourselves. And so that can go for ourselves, our children, and just making sure that we get enough sleep, right? Making sure that we enjoy ourselves, maybe listen to a story, read a book, doing something fun. Got to get a little creative around the house, but you can play puzzles, you can play Monopoly, and just, you know, charades and things like that we used to do a long time ago when we didn't have a luxury of going out and doing other things that we enjoy that typically cost a lot of money or things like that. And so really, those are just 10 things that you can do to begin to build resilience. There are definitely other ways, but those are just 10 things that I think that would be good to at least take part in to go on that journey to develop your resilience.
Thank you, Dana. I appreciate that because there's so much. And what I've learned is that even now, you know, and even trying to decide, because you may be saying like, well, I want to homeschool, but they may have heard, you know, let's say, well, I take the children out, we go to the, you know, every moment's a learning moment. And what I appreciated that COVID made learning a worldwide experience. So what do I mean by that? You can go online, you could virtually tour museums now, you could virtually watch, you know, Broadway shows, you could virtually watch so many things that you couldn't physically get to. So you could take those moments as your learning moment. You know, if you decide you want to homeschool, or if you want to say, okay, well, I don't have the time as a parent to go out and find a curriculum, and, you know, or I'm a parent, I need that structure. So I need my kids to be in 9 to 5. I need someone else to kind of monitor that. So you may say, but you know what, today I've learned, you know, let me encourage, you know, you're encouraged to supplement your child's education. So what I want to say is there's so many things out there that you can look at, you can watch, you can, you know, explore, you can Google, and most of them are free, that you can actually do that. You may even say, you know what, like a lot of these universities were offering free classes, you know, you may say, you know, let me, you know, take an arts class and share that with my child, you know, something, even though it may be a lot of content, but you could take bits and pieces out of that to teach them, you know, that can enrich what they're learning. So, because I don't want to discourage you and say, well, you know, okay, if you homeschool, then, you know, if you can't get out, you can't do anything, but there's so many other things that you can do. And I think the key word today is supplement, right? Because even no matter what you do, even if you homeschool, even if you send your child to school, you still have to supplement and fill in those areas. And it's just like, say if you never considered homeschooling, it's the same thing. It's certain things when you're in a car with your child, you're walking down the street, you're at a store, and you're teaching your child lessons. You're teaching them, you know, different lessons on different life lessons, right? You're teaching them different things. So it's kind of like, you know, I think that that plays a really big, a really big part in it. So we have a question. Let me go to the online. We have a question. It says, Alonda asks, what about unschooling? Does anybody have that answer?
Um, Unschooling, I think, is when you have been sending your child to the public school system or a school system, and there's things about that system, or you see that system going in the wrong direction, and then you want to unschool them, to kind of unravel what they've been being taught thus far, and then things like white supremacy, things like that. And so you unschool them instead of them going there, and the goal is to get your diploma, then go to college, and then, you know, get a job, and, you know, become a you know, another pawn or corporate slave, you know. That's my take on unschooling. Just an example of it, just to go against the way that things are set up in the current way that the system is.
Okay. Thank you, Nola. Uh, Melanie said, my biggest fear is, will my child digress? I finally have the confidence to try. How do I know if my child is staying on level?
So I can speak to that. So I want to say that I agree that the supplement is definitely needed, but before you, many are being faced with making the decision to do virtual learning, and they have to do virtual learning or some form of possibly hybrid, where they would have to go in person. So I really think that this is for those parents who are going to have to make those adjustments, those that work outside of the home or have someone else in place that will monitor them. They need to know exactly where their child is. And that can be done in many ways. It doesn't even necessarily have to be done with the curriculum. It can be just conversation. You know, you pretty much given that role to the teacher, right? And parents are the first teachers. And so I've heard parents say things like, I didn't know he could spell his first and last name, you know, because they never really did that exercise with them. And they really found out that they do know their primary colors and they do that things. I do something with the toddlers, I do this workshop with the parents where they have multiple children, but they get one child, each child, they get their thing with each other. You know, it could be a song, it could be a handshake, it could be something, but that's their thing. And I kind of shared that with the older children, parents, say, while you guys are home, get that moment where you find and get to know your child again, right? Get to know exactly what they know. They'll be so surprised how much they know. And a lot of their knowledge came from inside the home, riding in the car with the parent, right? Listening to adult conversations, possibly YouTube and other things that was not in the classroom setting. This is because they are sponges. They're taking it all in. And so you can the parents are now going to turn into the observers. And you know what? They're going to have to acknowledge my child has some weaknesses in this area, you know, and that would kind of guide them on how to get some supplements or maybe reach out, as Dana was saying, your support system, some other people. I'm dealing with this particular, my child has a speech impediment, or my child is not pronouncing certain words. Have you experienced that? And maybe someone else can share. It's not necessarily a curriculum, but you are identifying different areas of concern or strengths that you can enhance. So I think this is definitely going to cause the parent who can, or I said the caregiver who can definitely observe the children and find out. It doesn't have to be a standardized test. They're going to be able to look and see where they are and be able to support wherever the children's learning. And it doesn't have to be like I said, like a ditto or anything. It can be absolutely, and I talk a lot about development. It could be their fine motor. They need to do more exercise. They need to be on, some children need, and I always say this, they need a set bedtime. They need more rest, right? They need to have change their diet. There's a lot of nutrition, of different things that's also learning and incorporating and helping them to learn. So it's a lot of things that the parents, because they are getting to know their child all over again. And this is a good way for them to make sure that their child is well balanced.
I think that's a good point. And just your transparent moment for me, I transitioned my son from public school into private school. And what I learned that he did not know how to write cursive. And so something so, you just I think it was just my assumption that, well, that was being taught at school. I had no clue. They stopped teaching cursive years ago. And so what did I do? I went out, I bought cursive books, I brought, different things. And he was so excited to show me that he learned. But again, that comes back to saying supplement. Like you said, spend time with your kids, establish that time so that you can learn them, because sometimes we assume everything that they're learning. Because I know a lot of the younger grades, they don't send homework anymore, or they'll let out class early enough so that the kids can do the homework in the school. So when they come home, you're really not seeing everything that they're learning. And that's why parent-teacher conferences are very important to go to learn, and just to, now they have implemented where you could go online and see what they're doing and look at their work and things like that. If some teachers keep up with putting that information, but it's very important again to supplement, to see what they know. You could teach them something new, like you said, a word of the week, or something like that, so that they can grow beyond what that curriculum is. And there's nothing wrong with, like you was talking about, a speech impediment. There's nothing wrong with saying, my child is having a problem pronouncing, certain words. I was in speech class, I think, for less than one school year, because I couldn't say the sound. Like I was like I couldn't say S. And my name is Santrisa with 2 S's, right? Horrible. But I couldn't say the S word, the S letter at all. Like I used to be like Santrisa, like, and it was just kind of like, my mother immediately acted on that. It wasn't like, it was nothing wrong with it. You know what I mean? It was nothing wrong with it. So, I just want to say that, like you said, talk to other parents, like, do other things that, need to be done, and just reach out. I know there's a lot of support groups out there. And then that would be good too with homeschooling. Even if kids can't go, y'all could Zoom, have Zoom dates. I think they started Zoom play dates and things like that they were doing to kind of keep their children's social skills up. If you can go out, wear a mask, meet up, and let them have that interactive social time. Another question is, how many hours is a good amount per day for homeschooling? Nola? I think
For me, yeah. For me, I would say I normally did about 4 hours of formal instruction, and then there would be maybe like an hour of studying or supplemental educational activities later on in the evening.
Okay. So about four.
I wanted to jump in for my age group. The codes are for our state. We were just talking about that today. It's 3.5 hours, and it's only 1 hour of screen time. They will only can be on for an hour, and so the other time would be other interactive things, but it won't be on screen. It won't be virtual.
What I want to ask Nola, being that we were talking about screen time, right? Or Lydia too. I could pose the same question, and I'm gonna be wrapping it up soon. But when talking about homeschooling, school at home, what if? How can I supplement if I don't have all the necessary tools to put my children online? You know, me coming up, you know, I sat in front of Sesame Street and Mr. Rogers for about 2 hours to learn, you know, certain things. But what if they don't have that? Like, you know, if they don't have the computer to put their child on, what if they're using their internet, the local internet provider that's only giving them 1 free hour per day, and that's all they can afford? You know, that's all that they could do, because that's what cable gives you. I think about a free hour one day, every day, or something like that. So what can a parent do if they don't have, you know, the internet, or they don't have like the technical parts? It doesn't make it harder to homeschool. Does it make it harder to school at home? Like, you know.
The having internet access definitely makes it a whole lot easier. But you can also go to the library, and I would do that. Years ago, we would go to the library, and it would be certain days that we would go, and they could all get on at the same time. And then with a lot of these online learning programs, they keep in track of, you know, how long you've been on the last assignment, your test scores, and all like that. So, you know, you won't lose, you know, any record of the work that you've done, and you can still keep up pace. You just have to, you know, decide what you are able to do beforehand, and then, you know, making those accommodations. But you definitely can go to the library. During COVID, that's not something that we, you know, probably are going to want to do right now, but just in general, it is more challenging if you're used to having online access at home. But if you don't, then you can definitely make those days where you can go to the library and get on for free.
Okay.
I was going to say, find you some free Wi-Fi, no, but you definitely, again, with the homeschooling, I'm going to speak from the homeschooling standpoint, you are in control. And so you can determine what days that you will get material online. But there's a wealth of things that you can do that you don't need to go on the internet for. And learning can still happen. If you had to go into a set, like the hybrid, where you had to be in a set time because they're doing a group sharing of information or instruction, you would have to plan ahead, right? They're going to have to plan ahead. And if in fact, I mean, worst scenario, you were not able to log in, some provisions would have to be made from that particular district or system, because that is one of the barriers. Everyone does not have devices. They don't have Wi-Fi, you know, the internet connection. Some families have their own personal devices, but they have multiple children. And if you have multiple children and they all want them to sign on at one time with one laptop or one Chromebook, those are some challenges. And so that's a conversation. But again, the parent is definitely in the control seat to speak up and be the voice for their children and for their progression in their education. Because that if that's what they are saying is going to be the process, you already foresee that's going to be a problem. And so either you're going to give me you're going to provide a Chromebook or something for each one of my children, or we're not going to be able to participate in this curriculum because we're not going to be able to keep up. So that's something that's definitely going to be up for discussion, or something that parents are going to consider when they're going to make their decision. Am I going to do hybrid, or am I going to just go full force into homeschooling?
And that's a good point. Again, there are a lot of places that offer free Wi-Fi. Not even just the library. I think Starbucks and
Interesting to make it, right? Different places.
Barnes and Nobles, McDonald's, like, you know, all these different places you could go. But I wanted to put that out there because I don't want people to feel as if they're, if I don't have it, I can't do it. Right. And so, you know, don't set that limitation for yourself. I mean, either way, I'm not saying homeschool, not to homeschool or not to homeschool. What I'm saying is that you have options, but in the midst of the options, there's a lot of things to consider. I am looking online. Is there any more questions for those who are watching? Again, I want to thank you for tuning in on today. Just check and wait and see if we have any more questions. So while we're waiting to see, I want to give some closing remarks to Lydia, then Nola, and then Dana, and then I'll come and sum it up if we have nothing else.
I wanted to say thanks for the opportunity. Again, like I said, I'm no expert with the homeschooling, but in considering it, I definitely see the benefit of parents being engaged and really enhancing their children's learning experience. As an educator, I had the opportunity, before I was a district educator, I was in a private situation and I pulled from everything. All right. So I like that. I do think that we're going to, even when this is all over and we get back to some sort of norm, I'm hoping that the lessons that have been learned with this homeschooling or schooling at home will continue. That if they, in fact, go back to children being back in the school setting, for those parents who choose to do that, that they will continue to supplement and they will continue to do the different experiences that they encounter with this, because the children will be the better for it. Again, I kind of, with that person that had the question that they didn't want their child to digress, you know, you really, that's a parent's concern. You know, I'm not a teacher, I'm an accountant, you know, I do other kind of work. I'm not a teacher, but I want to just inspire. I don't want to say inspired by you. I want to inspire the parents to know that they are their teacher's best and first teachers.
Thank you. And Nola, any final comments?
I just want to thank you for you know, the opportunity to come on here and share and learn. And I do want to say that homeschooling has definitely been, and with its challenges, it has definitely been one of the most rewarding experiences that I've ever had. And that's basically it. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nola. And Dana, I know. And
Yeah.
thank you for your 10 tips, but any other final comments and remarks?
Yes. So I just want to say thank you for having me, but also for everybody to remember that as you embark on your decision, whether it's to homeschool your child, you know, whether you're embarking to send them back to school or a hybrid of both, just remember that resilience is an effective and powerful tool that empowers us to handle uncertainty. And that there is a website that is very, very helpful. It's got all kinds of tools and quizzes and things like that to help you figure out where you are in resilience and how to develop that. It's called positivepsychology.com. And so you can go out there and look around and check it out and see some of the tools that are out there to help you on your journey.
Thank you, Dana. So I'm going to close out. I'm going to ask you, Dana, if you can post that website at the bottom in the comments. Also, that quote you said, the first one, I can't remember it. You can just
yes. If you change the way you look at things, things you change. Yes.
If you could post that in the bottom, I think that's a very, very, very good quote, you know, for today. And I think just moving forward, that's a very good quote that I think that everyone should chime into. So again, I want to thank you guys. Thank you for coming on and sharing your expertise, and, you know, for us to sit and learn. I think everyone who watched and those who are going to tune in and catch the replay, thank you so much. Remember to like, tag, and share those who may benefit from this information that was shared today. You can always inbox Inspired by You if you have any more questions, and I can send it to the appropriate professional if I cannot answer it myself, so that we could get back in contact with you. But we always here on Inspired by You, always want you to go back and check your local resources, check with your state, because all we're here is to give you information and to give you those nuggets to get your brain and everything churning so that your emotions can get into gear towards the direction that you want to go into. So again, I want to thank you guys for coming in, tuning on. I am Santrisa Wilson, Coach Santrisa Wilson. I am the CEO of Inspired by You and also Releasing My Secret. And I do look forward to chatting with you guys. I am going to put a copy of this video on my website, which is santrisaw.com. So if you don't catch it here on Facebook, you'll be able to tune in later through my website. Thank you all for coming. Have a wonderful day. Stay safe, wear your mask, and stay dry. Take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.